If you're like me, recently we've seen the damage and destruction that tornadoes can cause, sadly, for the people of Mississippi with some of the recent significant tornadoes that impacted that area. A video I've always thought about doing was a little bit of a look at tornado safety and what should you do should there be severe weather or potentially a tornado warning in your area. What are the things that you should grab? Where should you go? How can you keep you and your family safe? And so I wanted to put together a little video here, take a look at some tips, things to do, resources to be prepared. That way, if you're ever in the situation where there could be a tornado coming towards your area, whether that's your home, your business, your school, maybe you're traveling, want you to be prepared and know exactly what you should do to give you the highest likelihood of being able to make it through that event or even a direct hit from a tornado, hopefully safely, and be able to come out on the other side. So when we look at tornadoes, I think one thing that we often think is that a tornado is going to impact the entire area that the tornado hits in the same manner. And really that's not true. And I think this image, it's a little bit, the resolution's not perfect, but I did think that this image made a really good point. And so what we can see here is that these are damage ratings at these individual homes in this neighborhood. For example, we can see that these two homes down here are listed at EF5, so that would be the strongest damage rating for a tornado. We've got some EF4 tornado damage in here, EF3 for these homes, EF2. We even have EFU damage up here, a couple shingles missing. And I think that this example in this picture actually gives us a pretty good illustration of how even a neighborhood and not a long distance apart, you can have some pretty significant differences in damages. And so even though a tornado might be in an area or at an intersection or in a part of town, you can actually see some very significantly different impacts and levels of danger and destruction depending on exactly where you are. So I don't think you ever want to necessarily let your guard down if there's a tornado warning that's issued for your area. Take that very seriously because there's really no way to know exactly how intense the tornado might be in a particular area, and certainly these higher end damage indicators, the EF3, EF4, EF5, and even sometimes in the lower ratings can be extremely dangerous and destructive. Couple kind of recent examples or even looks at examples of how this can really look. We can see kind of on the left in this picture, this is, a home, an apartment building. You can see how much damage can be done, but maybe you might still have some of the walls left. The roof may be gone, but some of the walls, especially the interior ones, will be left. Or in the top right, you can see the damage that can happen if you were to be in a vehicle during a tornado. A massive piece of lumber, larger than a 2x4 here, going right through a windshield. Obviously could be very, very dangerous and deadly if you were to be in that. And then on the bottom right, seeing what can happen if you're in a mobile home or a manufactured home or a building that isn't completely anchored down or that is exposed underneath that allows the wind to get under. Mobile homes are extremely dangerous in tornadoes, and certainly a lot of the fatalities in tornado events sadly do often relate back to being in a mobile home when that tornado hit. So now let's look at a little bit of the safety, look at the definitions, what should we be aware of, and should we pay attention for. So wanted to talk through what's a tornado watch and what's a tornado warning. What's the difference and what should my reaction be when each of those occurs. So tornado watch, that is when a tornado is possible. Really means that the conditions in the atmosphere are favorable, that if storms do occur and really start to strengthen, that you could see the potential for a tornado in that area. So you definitely want to know where your safe place is, whether that's a hallway, a bathroom, a storm cellar or shelter if you happen to have that at your location. And you don't necessarily need to go there at that moment that a tornado watch is issued, but you want to be prepared and ready to act quickly if that tornado warning is issued for your area. Now, tornado warning, that means that a tornado is happening or about to happen. That means that it's not just that the conditions are favorable, but that there has either been a radar indicated tornado based on the radar that the National Weather Service is seeing, or potentially that emergency management or storm chasers or someone with the National Weather Service has actually observed that there is a tornado that's impacting that area. And so that will prompt a tornado warning. This means that you should immediately seek shelter and you should go to that safe place wherever that might be for your location. That's definitely a time that you want to take action. Don't stand outside, don't look out, don't wait around, don't watch the TV and sit on the couch. This is a time to act and certainly put your tornado plan into place at that moment. This is a graphic that I see from time to time in severe weather season. As much as it's kind of funny, I think it does a really, really good job of getting the point across and kind of helping all of us to remember the difference between a watch and a warning using something like tacos. So again, a taco watch would be that, hey, I'm making tacos. I've got all the ingredients. I've got the taco shells, the meat, the cheese, the vegetables. It's all there, but I don't have a taco yet. I just have all the ingredients that are present. And a taco warning, that's when all the ingredients are put together and I'm ready to eat tacos. It's happening, it's ready to go, it's all together. And that's really the same thing with a tornado watch and a tornado warning. Again, a watch means that all the ingredients or the conditions are there and it's favorable, but that there's not something immediately happening right at that second. Whereas a tornado warning means that it is occurring or is just about to occur, and so you want to take that very, very seriously. When we look at tornadoes, like I showed with that previous couple slides ago, when I looked at the kind of the damage indicators and that picture of a neighborhood, not all tornadoes are created equal by any means. And we have the EF or Enhanced Fujita scale. This is how we rate tornadoes. I think one of the probably most common misconceptions is that tornadoes are rated based on wind speed. Wind speed is a piece of the criteria in the category here, and I think that's what we often think of with tornadoes. But actually, the Enhanced Fujita scale is actually a damage scale. And so tornadoes are often, and really always, rated based on the damage that they incur on whatever they strike. And so we use the damage to then assess and kind of give some sort of an estimate to what was the wind speed that impacted that particular damage and caused that. One of the challenges is that means that when a tornado is occurring, it's really impossible in the moment to know exactly how strong or intense that tornado is. That's why you don't ever want to say, oh, it's probably not a big deal, or oh, this is probably a weak tornado. Because a weak tornado can certainly still cause injuries and deaths even, and it's something that you really don't often know at the time. Sometimes big tornadoes can be relatively weak. Sometimes even smaller tornadoes can be rather intense if you happen to be impacted by it. And so this Enhanced Fujita scale, we see that an EF0, wind speed 65 to 85 miles an hour, minor damage, maybe some shingles, gutters, some tree branches knocked down. Again, relatively minor, but certainly still something that you want to take seriously. Then as you move down on the scale, that EF number starts to increase along with the wind speeds and the damage. When you look at something like an EF5 tornado, that's wind speeds of 200 miles per hour or greater. This is massive damage, so this would be entire homes are swept away, high-rise buildings severely damaged, steel reinforced concrete structures are damaged, and trees are snapped or just ripped apart altogether. So this scale increases with damage, and again, it's built off of a damage scale, although they actually are in the process of updating to an even, I guess, a enhanced Fujita scale. And we may here in the coming years be able to incorporate maybe a little bit more when it comes to wind speed or even mobile radar data to assess how intense tornadoes are. But right now, this is the scale that's used and the different criteria for each type of tornado. Next thing that's important is what should we do to prepare for a tornado? So let's say that tornado watch was issued earlier and now there's a tornado warning that's in effect for our area. That means there's either a confirmed tornado or the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning because the radar that they're watching is showing that at any second now a tornado could form. So what are the things that you should have if this is happening to you? So the first thing is important that maybe you might think of, you might not, is go ahead and put shoes on. Let's say you were to have to crawl out of damaged area. You certainly don't want to be stepping on nails or debris. So go ahead, put shoes on, be prepared. Make sure that your phone is fully charged. If you have a helmet, a bike helmet, a ski helmet, something like that to protect your head, go ahead and have that nearby, or go ahead and put that on. If the power were to go out, if it's at nighttime, anything like that, if you need to try to get help or alert someone, a flashlight can be super helpful. Oftentimes you want to have a mattress, pillow, comforter, something, big, thick blanket, something that's going to provide a little bit of protection and try to separate you from potential of flying debris or things that could be in the air. I'd also grab your wallet. That way you have identification, you have important, documents, your driver's license, credit cards, those types of things, just so that you have that with you in case you might need it. The other thing that's also important is either I would turn my TV up really loud so that I could hear that if I needed to go to my safe spot, or if you have a NOAA weather radio, certainly would recommend having that with you. Turn that on. That way you can be alerted if there's a warning that's issued or some sort of a new warning that's even closer to your position. These NOAA weather radios can certainly save your life, especially at nighttime. They are quite loud. They can wake you up. They're going to do a much better job than, say, your cell phone. Relatively cheap. They're about $40 on Amazon. You can get them at a sporting goods store. And that way, those alerts are super loud and they'll wake you up, especially if, let's say, it's a severe weather that's happening in the middle of the night. It's well worth an investment and certainly could save your life. Next thing is, okay, well, we might know what we need to have, but okay, where should we go? Where should we go to be safest when a tornado is occurring or there's been that tornado warning that's been issued? So if you're in a building, certainly you want to go to that most interior room. You want to be away from any type of doors, windows. You want to be on the lowest level of your home. And again, along the lines of that most interior room, you want to stay away from those outer walls of any type of a building, a school, a home that you're in. That's going to give you the most room between a potential tornado impacting that structure and where you are. So again, away from doors and windows, lowest level of the home, most interior room. That's going to be what you want to do if you're at home, you're in some sort of a building. Let's say maybe you live in a mobile home or you're visiting someone that lives in a mobile home. Again, extremely, extremely dangerous. About 54% of tornado-related fatalities actually occur in a mobile home. It's extremely dangerous, and honestly, it's not even recommended that you stay there. Try to find someone that has a storm shelter in the area, or go to maybe a sturdy home that's in the neighborhood. Try to get out of that mobile home. If at all things possible, I would even recommend going to your car, put your car in park, airbags, seatbelt on. That's going to give you not a lot of protection, but likely a little bit better than being in a mobile home. And then lastly, on that note, if you find yourself in your car and there's not a sturdy structure around, or you're in the open country, something like that, put your seatbelt on, make sure that everybody else in the car has their seatbelt on, put the car in park, hazards on, turn on your headlights, and then try to crouch down, put your hands and arms kind of over your head, try to get your body and head below the line of the windows. If your windows start to shatter, could be not only glass, but certainly flying debris, that's going to give you the best chance of survival is if you're below the level of those windows. And that way, again, hopefully the sides of your cars will provide some protection from some of the smaller debris, and just kind of stay crouched down. That's going to give you the best chance of survival if you happen to be trapped in your car during a tornado. So those are, again, kind of what you want to do, where you want to go, and what you want to have. I think a little acronym that can be helpful just to remember, obviously, tornado warnings, watches, these can be very stressful times, so little things to remind yourself what a watch or a warning is or what you should do can be helpful. And so with tornado safety, if you remember the acronym DUCK, that can be helpful. So the D stands for downstairs, the U stands for under something, under a mattress, under a blanket, pillows on top of you, something like that. The C stands for the center of the building, as we've talked about, that most interior room, lowest level, away from windows and doors. And then the K for keep away from windows, as we just talked about. Again, you want to stay away from those open areas that are most susceptible to basically allowing the outside in. And so, again, duck, that can be a very helpful acronym to remember with tornado safety. Let's say you're not around a building, as we talked about, you're in the open country, you're traveling on the highway, you see that there's severe weather, the warning comes on the radio. Okay, what should I do? How can I stay safe? So, a couple things that you do want to do. Let's say you're driving. If you can find a sturdy building, let's say there's a gas station or there's some sort of a building that you can get to that you see at a nearby exit, certainly you want to try to get inside of a sturdy structure. Oftentimes, there's been many a times when people have been in their vehicles and they found, let's say, a convenience store. A lot of times, those cooler areas where the drinks are held are actually almost kind of like a vault, and they can provide some added protection. And so if you're in a vehicle traveling, try to find a house, a building, a gas station, something that's going to give you added protection, even more so than a car will. Again, next best option, try to find a home, try to get somewhere where you've got some of that protection outside of your vehicle. Let's say there's not any of that, you're in a rural area, you can't find anywhere. Certainly what you don't want to do, and what some people have certainly thought is a good idea, is to try to crouch under an overpass or park your car under an overpass. You certainly don't want to do this because actually that underpass oftentimes will kind of function like a wind tunnel. And so you can actually see that the miles per hour of the wind and the wind speeds actually is even greater in that condensed smaller area, and that wind will funnel under that and can actually rip you and your vehicle away and do even far greater damage than if you were just parked out in the open. So definitely don't want to leave your car, get under an overpass. You don't want to park your car under an overpass. That's actually going to put you in a worse position, not a safer one. And also try not to be around different trees, debris that could be flying. Again, if you're in your vehicle and there's not a sturdy shelter somewhere, again, best to try to be out in the open. If there is any type of a lower area, that might give you a little bit of added protection, but again, don't want to get under an overpass or anything like that. Lastly, I think a couple examples on, again, putting some of these things into practice and how that really can benefit you. This looks at kind of an overall damage picture after a tornado. And I think what we can see here is there's this area in the middle of this house. Looks like it could be a pantry, maybe it's a utility closet, something like that. And you can see how that's standing. Now, we do have one kind of outer wall and a little bit of a room here. Again, sometimes could just be a fluke. Again, there's windows here and an outside wall, so really not that safe, even though it did stand up during the tornado. But really, a lot of these other areas here completely just wiped away and they're gone. But you've got this interior room here, kind of a closet, something like that. And if someone would have been in here, certainly would have increased their chances of making it out alive and surviving than, say, being in some sort of an outer room here. Or even here, again, obviously stuff came through. You can see this is almost going through the wall. Glass broke, the windows there, even though the walls stayed, still would have been very dangerous there. So, again, that's why we talk about lowest level interior room away from walls and windows. Other thing that we want to take a look at is, again, why not a mobile home? This is an example here where we can see the frame of the mobile home. It's clearly been flipped, probably from right over here on the left side. It's been flipped and thrown out upside down across this road. So clearly there's just not a lot of protection here. They're certainly not strong enough. And because they're up on stilts, kind of on this trailer, even if you have cinder blocks or some sort of a covering there, not going to be strong enough. And when those tornado winds rip that stuff apart and get underneath there, it just starts to toss mobile homes. And that's why we see so many fatalities related to mobile homes. So again, certainly wouldn't ride out a tornado in a mobile home. Get to a friend's house, find a storm shelter, even get in your vehicle as a last resort if you have to. So I think that's certainly an important thing. Hopefully this visual kind of lets it sink in that, again, mobile home is a very dangerous place to be sheltering from a tornado. Last thing is, again, how can we get watches, warnings? How can we be alerted to if danger is presenting itself? Is there a tornado coming my way? Those types of things. These are all resources that are good to use, whether it's local TV and radio. Certainly the internet. A lot of us have smartphones. We get alerts on our phones now. You can follow Twitter, those types of things. You might get a text from a friend, family worker, coworker. We've talked about that NOAA weather radio. Certainly would recommend that. It's a small investment for the potential of obviously a great reward, and having the opportunity to maybe save your life in the event of a tornado warning. Sometimes outdoor sirens will work. Again, it depends on your area, if they're going to be activated, if they're available and you can hear them within that proper distance. So I wouldn't rely on that, but that certainly can be a tool. So a couple other things that are very helpful. Again, I would certainly recommend keeping in touch social media wise, if you use social media, with your local National Weather Service office. Here locally in Dallas Fort Worth, that's the National Weather Service Fort Worth. They post a lot of updates on Twitter, Facebook, different social media channels there, and that way not only would you know in advance typically of the day of if there could be the potential for severe weather, but also as those warnings get issued, you'll also have an easier way to get those updates. So again, I think a little bit of preparation, like with many things, preparation can certainly be something that could make a big difference in the end, possibly even save your life or your family's life. And with so many other things, if you wait until the moment to need it and you don't have a plan in place, it's going to put you in a far worse off position. So I would talk with your family, friends, schools. There's a reason that we do fire drills with our employers and at schools. It's to prepare to know what to do. Where would we go? What do we need to grab? How quickly do we move? What do we, how do we reunite with family or friends, co-workers? So go ahead, have that plan in place, know what things to do, where would you go? That way, if you're ever in a tornado warning, you know what to do. It can certainly keep you and your family safe. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if there's anything else that you and your family have done in the past, or if there's anything else that might be helpful for people to know to stay safe. Certainly severe weather can impact us all, and we don't want to see that. Injuries, death toll, loss of life, certainly sad to see here recently in Mississippi, and so this was a little bit kind of weighing on me. I put this together and put some pieces of it together a while ago, but thought it was time to publish it, and hopefully maybe this can impact one person to be a little bit better prepared when that severe weather does inevitably hit. So hope this was helpful.